Thank you so much for joining us for the Power of Connection. I am Christina Matheson. So happy to be here with you today. And our guest is Charles Olson. Charles, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Christina. It's a real pleasure to be here.
You know, our focus with the Power of Connection series has been really of realtors lately and how you got there. Because when we look at the newer realtors or realtors that are just trying to get some momentum going and build their business, they oftentimes look at people who've been in the industry for a while and they think that maybe, you know, you're just luckier than they are. So tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Oh, wow. That's a big open-ended question.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I could start with how I got into real estate in the first place. And in order to do that, I have to go back to 1999 when I was an IT guy doing computer work, you know, installing computer systems and networks and things like that. I felt the real estate industry was very backwards and naive when it came to implementing technology. So I targeted my IT skills to work in the real estate sector. And I wound up getting a job as a chief technology officer for a very major real estate firm in New York City. I was actually hired by Barbara Corcoran to be her chief technology officer. And as any effective IT person does, he learns the industry in which he's going to work. So I started to learn about real estate before I ever went into it, what the needs are of agents, consumers, clients, and, you know, everybody, you know, tangential to the real estate industry. And so I learned the business before I even became a real estate salesperson. I had left that company after several years, went to their competitor where I implemented the same sort of technology, and then moved into operations and eventually had an opportunity to open up a Keller Williams franchise. And so I went ahead and did it and never looked back. And so I already had a good basis in understanding what the real estate industry was all about in terms of buying and selling, and had a great technology background. So I naturally just fell into it and found that I was very good at understanding what my clients needed because I had a long history of understanding the needs of my consumers. So I was just taking, you know, my ability to understand what is needed for a particular client and come up with relatively simple solutions for complex problems.
Amazing. So, you know, I want to ask you, oftentimes the people that are on the back end, right, on the tech side, they don't often have the social skills. Like it's not, and I'm not being derogatory. We all have certain gifts that we're given. And oftentimes we're not given both of those things, right? They're at the opposite spectrum of personality. So how was your transition from dealing with the back end of it and really understanding and knowing what clients and realtors were looking for into face-to-face every day, dealing with people, dealing with clients, dealing with other realtors? How did you transition from one to the other? Was it easy?
Was it easy? Well, let me just say that's a great question.
Oh, thank you, Charles.
And, you know, at Keller Williams, we talk a lot about the DISC profile. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It's different types of personality types, and everybody communicates in their own certain way. And I'm not what we call a high I, someone who's very social and chatty and stands for influential in terms of how they communicate with people. And I'm not a very high I. I get tired if I'm in a social situation, a big crowded social situation, and then have to do a lot of talking and, you know, say a lot of things to a lot of people. It exhausts me. So I learned how to do that by taking different classes that were offered, language of sales, language of agreement. It's just the different language patterns and techniques that help me to communicate with my clients in a way that best suits them, so I could help them accomplish their goals. So I learned the types of questions to ask and how to ask them and how to phrase them to get the best responses from my clients so I could understand their needs and deliver the services that they needed to achieve their real estate goals. So it was a lot of training, education, and, you know, I worked on my craft.
Natural. It wasn't
natural. No,
natural.
not at all natural for me. Not at all natural for me. Matter of fact, one of my favorite stories is this is in the early days. I was calling for expired listings, as a lot of real estate agents do in the beginning. This one, and I wasn't even going to call this one particular expired listing because it was a less expensive co-op and a not and just it wasn't a high-end co-op. It was, you know, relatively low value, low commission, and potentially a lot of work, because co-ops are a lot of work. So I said, hey, you know what, let me call it anyway, just for practice. And it was probably one of the best calls I've ever had. I call up the guy and I say, this is the best call, and this is what happened. Hello, ring, ring, hello. And I'm like, I introduced myself, and, you know, and he goes, the client goes, are you soliciting me? Are you soliciting me? And like, I knew how to respond to that. I go, no, I'm not soliciting you, but you do want to sell your home, don't you? He goes, yeah. Well, that's why you need to hire me, because I'll get your home sold. You know, basically, I learned when someone comes over to you with, you know,
Aggressively.
Aggressively, you
Right.
reply back to them aggressively, not insultingly.
Right.
You mirror and match their tone of voice and the way they're communicating. And I just settled him down, and he became one of my favorite clients ever. And I still speak to him to this day. He goes, you know, you're a really good salesperson. And I'm like, I didn't really do anything other than communicate with him in the manner in which he needed to be communicated.
Right.
Right? If I was to back off and say, oh, I'm sorry, I would have come off as a weak agent. And he doesn't want to hire a weak agent. He wants a strong agent to get his property sold. He's already failed with selling it with other agents. He doesn't need another weak agent. He needs somebody who knows what he's doing. And I conveyed that confidence to him by being confident in how I responded to him. Now, I never knew to do that. The old Charles would have just tried to placate him and say, I'm sorry, and back off. And that would have been the most inappropriate way to tackle that situation. All right, does that make sense?
It's a great story. And what I'm getting from that is you really put your time into learning to communicate, because you felt that maybe that was your, you know, that was your shortfall, that you knew that was something you had to work on to be successful in this industry. I think that, you know, many times when I speak to newer agents, they just don't know where to start, and they don't know how to get going, and they don't know how to get from here to there. But you're really showing that whatever your personality type is, anybody can do it with some training, but commitment is really a big piece to it.
Commit. That's part of the Keller Williams Y4C 2Ts, right? Commitment and communication, and being creative, just to continue on along that vein.
Yeah.
It's understanding your client, learning the skills that you need. It didn't come naturally to me. Nobody is a born salesperson. You learn to become a salesperson. I don't really consider myself a salesperson. I'm not selling, you know, I'm selling myself. Really, am I though? I'm learning how to communicate with my clients, understand what they need, and I'm delivering the services that they require to
so
achieve
you can
their
help
goal.
them.
Right. So communicating with them in the form that they best communicate with. So, you know, I've taken classes like, I've taken NLP classes, neuro-linguistic programming classes. I hone my skills, you know, basically practicing, and scripts and role play is one of the 5 jobs of a real estate agent. The 5 jobs being lead generation, lead follow-up, going on appointments, negotiations, and scripts and role play. Basically, your practice. You have to practice your craft. Think of like, I think it was Derek Jeter who said something to the effect of, if I miss practice for a day, I notice my performance in the field. If I miss 2 days of practice, my teammates notice my performance in the field. And if I miss 3 days of practice, the fans in the stands notice my performance in the field. So if you're not practicing your craft, you're going to get rusty, and you're going to say the wrong thing at the wrong time, or the perfect thing to say is not going to come to your mind. It's going to say, I practice scripts and dialogues and conversations every day. It's one of the 5 jobs of a real estate agent. The 5 jobs being lead generation, lead follow-up, going on appointments, negotiation, and scripts and role play. That's your practice. You have to practice every day. I think it was Derek Jeter who said something to the effect of, if I don't practice every day, if I miss a day of practice, I notice my performance in the field. If I miss 2 days of practice, my teammates notice my performance in the field. And if I miss 3 days of practice, the fans in the stands notice my performance in the field. So I practice this with other real estate agents, with different colleagues, and, just listening to other people speak and, online, and just basically practice it on a regular basis. You really need to do that if you want to hone your craft.
you're doing that for the benefit of your clients so that you learn to listen to what they're saying and give them what it is that they need in a way that they want to have it given to them. Is that what you're saying?
Christina, it's actually more than that. Yes, in the end, the practice helps me communicate better with my clients, but it has tangential, not even just tangential, it has real world benefits. So I've learned how to communicate better with my friends, my family members, daily interactions in the store. You know, like instead of getting upset that something's not right when I go to purchase something, I maybe will smile and get them on my side by commiserating with the salesperson just as frustrated as I am. It's not going to help me to be angry at her. It's be better for me to say a little joke to her, like, oh man, how much of your day does this problem take from you? Like, you know, and it yields a much better result all around, right? Learning how to communicate effectively is a life's benefit that you'll reap the rewards for many years to come. So yes, it ultimately helps me become a better real estate agent, but more importantly, it's helped me to become a better person.
That is so insightful. You know, when we talk about the power of connection, we have to have the ability to effectively connect with other people. That's really the foundation for so much. And,
Absolutely.
you know, to have that kind of insight and put that kind of time into it to make sure that you can really, you know, be a better human, but really all of the other pieces for your career and your, you know, everything that you're doing fall under that umbrella.
Absolutely.
So Charles, I happen to know that you are the greatest advocate for Brooklyn. Tell me
Absolutely.
a little bit about your connection to Brooklyn, and what is that picture behind you that I see?
Oh, the picture behind me is the boathouse in Prospect Park. I was taken like a week or two ago during that really cold spell. I pretty much, I have a whole series of this picture from this particular angle. And I like this angle because you have the tree on my right side, or I'm not sure what perspective is, but it shows like the changing of the seasons, right? And so I could have a whole montage of this picture from this angle for like 2 years now. And one day I'll put them all together. I live right by Prospect Park. You could often find me in there early in the morning before sunrise, or even in the afternoon when I get home when the day's done to wind down, and I'll walk or I'll run in the park. I've spent so many hours in that park training for triathlons, Ironman triathlons, or ultra cycling races. My connection to Brooklyn goes back to pretty much I was born here. I grew up in a little part of Brooklyn called Ulmer Park. It's by the Ulmer Park bus depot. It's like Cropsey Avenue and Bay 46. My bedroom window overlooked the parachute jump and the Wonder Wheel in Coney Island. So, I mean, just a real nowhere place. You know, there was nothing. All right. So I grew up in a little place in Brooklyn called Ulmer Park. Nobody even knows where that is. The biggest landmark is the Ulmer Park bus depot. It's near Lafayette High School. That's where I went to high school. My bedroom window faced Coney Island, and I could see the parachute jump and the Wonder Wheel, all of Coney Island from my bedroom window.
Iconic.
Yeah, I grew up from small, humble roots in a Mitchell-Lammer complex. If you're in New York City, you might know what that means. If you don't, give me a call, I'll explain it to you. Went to Lafayette High School, went to Brooklyn College, met my wife, my future wife in Brooklyn College. Wound up making it good. I bought my first property in the 90s in Windsor Terrace before it exploded and became a hot place to live. I just took a chance that real estate values will come up, and it's the best investment I ever made. I was able to leverage that and buy the house that I live on the same street just several blocks away. And, you know, so now I own 2 properties. I'm an investor for property in Windsor Terrace. I own my house in Park Slope. Raised 2 children here. I have a cat named Giuseppe who roams around my backyard, and life is good. You know, when I was small, when I was young, I said, I got to get out of Brooklyn. I can't live here all my life. But Brooklyn was a rough place back then. Well, a lot of places were rough in Brooklyn. Park Slope, where I live now, wasn't what it was. You didn't go to Park Slope when I was young. I remember in the 90s, riding on the subway train home, the F line, which went right through right through Park Slope. And I saw a girl I knew in college, and she was on the train, and I hadn't seen her in a few years. And she started to get off at 7th Avenue stop on the F line, which is Park Slope. And I'll go, "What are you doing?" She goes, "I get off here." I go, "Why are you getting off here?" She goes, "I live here." I go, "Nobody lives here." Because at that time, nobody really lived in, that I knew anyway, from where I grew up, lived in Park Slope. It was all South Brooklyn. And she goes, "You don't know what you're talking about." So like bells went off in my head, like ding, ding, ding. I got to check this place out. And thank God that happened, because I wound up buying 2 places in the neighborhood. Yeah. This is frustrating, the freezing.
We're on. So you bought 2 places there. Talk to me about, your unique knowledge of Brooklyn is so important, because Brooklyn is such a diverse borough. So for anybody that hasn't been to Brooklyn, or you're not near there, tell us a little bit about the diversity and what you can experience from, crossing one street over to another.
Yeah, that's to me, that's a fascinating study. One of these days I'm going to take a video camera, connect it to my scooter, my electric scooter that I ride around town with, and videotape the differences of the neighborhoods. You have every different type of community, from a Jewish community to a Bangladeshi community to a Muslim community to a Chinese community, hipster community. We are out of video again. You there?
Yes. Yeah, I'm here.
All right, let's wait for the video to come back. I didn't like what I was saying anyway.
Okay.
I don't know if I want to mention different demographics, because I don't want to be accused of fair housing violations.
No, you don't want to do
what
that.
I mean? Yeah, so I want to say that again. I want to erase that. All right,
Hold on, I'm going to start to record again.
So cue me up to start again. I'm not sure how to begin.
So you want to talk about, so we're going to do this whole section over about the diversity in Brooklyn, and you're not going to talk about culturally. You can talk about the different food or the different something and what you see, and there's so many different cultures, and just maybe leave it at that.
Yeah. So Brooklyn is probably one of the most.
Here we go.
Brooklyn is probably one of the most diverse places you could choose to live. There's every nationality that you could think of. I think if you cross the United States, everybody knows somebody that at one point came from Brooklyn, or knows somebody that lives in Brooklyn. Every nationality you could think of. Every different type of food, ethnicity. The other day I went out for Georgian food, or I could go out to Chinatown. I could go to, I got to be careful what I say for fair housing violations, but there's every type of ethnicity that you could think of in Brooklyn, including like modern restaurants that you would find in Manhattan or the finest cities in the world. You have every different type of culture, and you could actually see the complexion of the demographic change as you drive or walk or ride through one section of Brooklyn to the other. It is probably the most diverse place I could think of that you could ever choose to live.
And every it's nationality. Visible. You're saying it's physically visible as you drive through. You can see the difference.
Oh, you could see the difference. You could see the language change on the storefront signs as you go as you cross one street to the next. It's really amazing that way. Every nationality that you could think of could be found in Brooklyn, and it's physically and visibly obvious.
So you mentioned earlier that when you were younger, you thought, I got to get out of Brooklyn. And now it seems like
I don't want to live any other place. I don't want to live any other place. It's has everything you could think of, everything you could possibly want. I like being able to wake up in the middle of the night and go to the corner bodega and get something to eat or drink. Right. I like seeing the bodega cat. Every bodega seems to have a cat that wanders around it. It's just a very eclectic place to live. There's everything for everybody here. So even you got the beaches, you got city skyline, right? You got everything. Think of something. The only thing we don't have mountains, but we have Prospect Park, which is Brooklyn's only forest. So, you could climb some hills and hike some trails in there. It's just an amazing place.
So it's not just culturally diverse, but even the topography, everything is just there. So
That's right.
how does this relate to when you are working with clients, if they're from out of the area or even if they're from the area, how does your knowledge of the area really help them?
Well, if they're looking for a certain type of community or location or proximity to something, I'll interview them or I'll meet with them and understand what they're after. How long of a commute do they need to get into Manhattan? Do they even need the train line? Do they need parking? Where are you going to find someplace affordable if you need to park a car? Are you more interested in just going down, your elevator and walking right out into the subway, or do you need, I have to understand their needs. So my process of, if I'm working with the buyer, is to interview them, find out what's important to them, get the, top 5 priorities, and find the type of housing that's within their price range that meets their criteria. And there's usually someplace that we could find, provided that they have the budget to make that type of purchase.
So you have that specialized knowledge, which is just so very cool. And you couldn't get that if you hadn't spent all that time there, right? So you understand the diversity, you understand the culture. If you could dispel a common myth about the real estate industry, what is something people think about people in real estate that's completely not true?
That is easy. It's not, well, it's not easy. It can be complicated, especially in New York City. It's not just get someone to list with you, put up a for sale sign, stick it on the MLS, and then pray that someone comes and buys the home. You have to know the different property types, the laws and the regulations for each particular property type. You need to be able to deal with tenants, violations, mortgage issues, survey issues, lot line violations, or encroachments. There's so many different complexities to New York City real estate, mainly because there's so many different property types. You have a single family home. Well, is it semi-attached, detached, or fully detached, right? Does it have does the homeowner say we have 3 bedrooms, so one of the bedroom is a middle bedroom with no windows? Well, technically that's not a bedroom. Is there a kitchen in the basement? You're not allowed to have that. Is there an extension on the back of the house? Was it put there legally? Was it grandfathered in? What's the issue? What's the certificate of occupancy? Does it have a certificate of occupancy? Does it have an I-card? Does the city determine what type of property it is? It was built as a 2 or a 3, but the city doesn't have a C of O, so they're not going to let you use it as a 2, and you have to apply for a letter of no objection. The list is endless.
So there's a lot behind that.
Yeah, there's so many things that could stop a transaction along the way, and you have to know how to deal with each and every one of them. I don't know if I've accounted all the different combinations that are out there yet. But it could be anything. It could be a person has a mortgage and suddenly there's a home equity loan that they forgot about. And now it's a short sale. Now you have to negotiate the short sale, but you have tenants in there that are not paying. How are you going to get them out? What are you going to do?
It's complex, and it's stuff. It may be stuff that that homeowner, that whether they're selling or somebody's buying or whoever you're representing, you really need to roll up your sleeves and help them, because nobody else is going to do it. That's part of.
Oh, you said something very wise. If you're not willing to roll up your sleeves and help them with whatever needs to be done, you'll have a lot fewer transactions if you have any at all. I tell my clients, listen, hire me and I'll do anything for you as long as it's legal, ethical, and moral. Just don't ask me to break the laws or compromise my ethics, and I'll do it for you. It snows in January and you're not at home and you need someone to shovel the snow. I'll have somebody out there, within the 4-hour time frame, so you avoid a ticket, right? Because if you don't shovel your snow after 4 hours of a snowstorm, you're getting a ticket from, a fine from the Department of Sanitation. So I take care of everything for my clients.
So tell me about Do you have any clients? So clearly you love what you do. And do you have any clients that stand out because you were able to help them so much? Like, did anybody just warm your heart?
Wow, there's so many. I don't even know where to begin. I do have one client. I still consider him my client. They were referred to me by one of my referral sources, and prior to them getting referred to me, they were listed with other real estate agents. They were an older couple, and their dream was to sell their home, buy a boat, and do something called the loop. The loop is you take your boat, you go up the Hudson River, you go through the Erie Canal, across the Great Lakes, down the Mississippi, into the Gulf of Mexico, and then back up the Atlantic, back to New York. And they wanted to do that. They failed to sell the home 2 or 3 times with other agents. They finally hired me. I looked at the situation. I saw what needed to be done to the home. I saw what needed to be done to the landscaping outside the home, and I took care of it all for them. Long story short, we sold the property. They sent me a letter while they're on their boat saying, "We're living our dream, Charles. Well, thanks to you." So I looked at it differently than other real estate agents were doing. It could be, a big complicated problem like landscaping and decorations and carpet and whatever. But I saw what needed to be done because I have a team. I'll hire a stager to come in and help not only just tell my clients what they need to do to make it look good, but how to organize and get ready to move to the next location, how to pack everything, how to label everything. But to answer the question, those are my favorite clients who are now living on this boat.
So when you first started, this didn't all come naturally to you. How long do you feel that it took you to be knowledgeable enough that you were comfortable? Like, were you uncomfortable when you first started?
That's a great question. I think I naturally fell into it. The communication aspect of learning the proper way or the most appropriate way to communicate with somebody, that was a learned experience.
Oh.
But I've always been a problem solver. That's why I went into information systems and IT, because I like figuring out the computer problem or the programming problem or the networking problem and knowing how to put things together. I've always been a great connector of people and problem solving. So communication was a problem. I learned what I needed to do to overcome the communication problem. If I saw a house that wasn't selling, I was able to figure out, why is this not selling? What can we do to make it more appealable to the consumer? A lot of times it had to do with staging and presentation. A lot of times it had to do with violations. And sometimes it was just, they were pricing it incorrectly. And all that has to be adjusted. So it just, I don't know if I learned that, through my education, going to school and college, but I've always been a natural problem solver. So that aspect did sort of come naturally to me. But learning how to solve some problems, you did have to hire experts on the issue, like getting expediters and to solve the problem if it's a violation in New York City. I don't know how to solve that, but I know who to go to get the problem solved. Right? It's about having that network that you can rely on to solve your particular problems.
So I think that's really one of the greatest things that we do is we build our network, the power of connection, right? It's a phrase that we keep referring to, and that's what we call this. So the connections that you make, not only in your industry, but in the community, in the vendor community, really just enhance your ability to do a better job at what you do. And that communication piece is tremendous for you.
Absolutely. And look, I built my network up over the last 10 plus years of selling real estate. I didn't have a big network in real estate. I didn't know expediters. I didn't know stages. I didn't have photographers. But I asked around, who did you like to use for this type of thing? I have this problem. How did you solve this problem? And I learned how to solve the different problems. Some I just naturally knew how to do. Some I had to reach out to other people on how to solve it. And then I built that network over time of allied resources to know who to go to for a particular type of problem, whether it be a mortgage issue, because a client can't get a mortgage. I need to know who to go to, such as your company, which has been great for me and getting my clients approved and able to buy the home that they wanted, to expediters, stagers, moving companies, contractors, plumbers, asbestos removal companies, mold removal companies, basically whatever, need or issue my clients have. If I don't know how to do it, I know who to go to solve that particular challenge.
Full service. I love that. I love that problem solver piece to what you do. How do you keep yourself on the cutting edge of knowing what's going on, up to date knowledge of the industry, the community that you're in? How do you do that?
Well, life is a learning process. If you're not learning something new, you're dying in a way. I keep up on industry news and events. I go to different conferences. Keller Williams offers 2 main conferences in the year, a family reunion, which is in like the next week and a half, and then Mega Camp in August. And I attend them, and I hear from some of the brightest brains in the industry about different issues or situations that they had. I learn about new technology, new systems, new procedures, and then I keep up to date on a local level. I have Google alerts set for things happening in my neighborhood or different neighborhoods with the landlord-tenant court, with different regulations that are coming into place. So I leverage the tools and the resources that I have to keep myself abreast of current events and projections of what's going to happen in the future. And I read a lot,
Yeah.
Some of my favorite books as a real estate person, I'm looking at it right now, is 7 Levels of Communication by Michael Mayer. Talks about how to build your sphere of influence in terms of becoming more productive. Another book I love, it's also right up over my desk. It's called Atomic Habits by, James Clear. That was a great book. And then Gary Keller's own 2 books, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent book and The One Thing. Tells you how to get precisely focused on how to deliver how to achieve the results that you want for you both personally, your family, your clients, for everybody that is in your world.
So we're all a work in progress, and nobody's any different. I don't think that we get to one level and then we stop, right? So you mentioned you have to keep growing. What are you doing to embrace this coming spring market? What are you doing for your business? What's one of the things you're focused on for this year?
I'm focused on increasing my business this year, and that starts with the number one job of a real estate agent, and that's lead generation, right? I'm learning new techniques about networking and building my sphere of influence on social media. Speaking with you and talking about how I've grown as a person and as a real estate agent is one of the things that I'm looking to do. I'm going to implement videos this year to get my message out about what I like to do and how I like to help my clients. I learn every day and I practice those skills until they're perfect, right? Right now, there's so many different things that you could learn in the world. You're unconsciously incompetent when it comes to most things in the world. You don't even know there's this thing that you need to learn about. So I expose myself to, well, not in the literal sense, but I expose myself to different environments, different people, different ideas and concepts, and just, be a connector of people. See where you could come from contribution, how you could help. I like helping other people. I find it satisfying, right?
Do you
if you help other people achieve their dreams and desires, it all flows back to you. Success through others. You help other people become successful. You yourself will become successful, right?
Do you consider yourself successful?
No, that'd be kind of crazy to say no. But I always feel like there's room for improvement. I have goals that I want to achieve. I want to leave a legacy for my family so they have the things and able to do the things that I wasn't able to do when I was younger. It doesn't mean I won't be able to do them now, but by the time I get there, I may not want to do it. I might want to do something else. So, I've done, and I've had a great life so far. I've done so many different things and hobbies, and events, and it's a matter of exploring and finding yourself and reinventing yourself every once in a while, but staying true to who you are at the same time.
That's really great insight. That's great advice. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you would really like to share with somebody considering, any career, but particularly something in the real estate profession? What advice would you give for somebody either starting out or somebody who has started and just feels like they're stuck?
Okay. I could offer several pieces of advice for someone wanting to become a real estate agent. Number one piece of advice: it's not a part-time job. It's not. You have to put 100% into it. If you're going to start becoming a real estate agent, before you begin, have a war chest of cash. Have the funds necessary to support yourself for the first 3 to 6 months. 6 months better, a year even better. I know that's going to be hard for a lot of people, but what I would say to how I would answer that is, fine, build your network, get ready, study, and save money as much as you can, because it'll take 3 to 6 months before you earn your first commission check. You can do rentals. I'm talking about real estate sales primarily, but you can do rentals to build up some quick cash. But if you really want to become a very successful real estate agent, you're going to want to go into real estate sales. Learn your skills, hone your skills, practice every day, and have grit and desire, right? You know what I mean by grit? Someone who's going to dig in there and stay with it and have the fortitude and be patient and learn your skills. Don't operate from scarcity. If you have $100 left in the bank and you need this commission to come through so you could pay your rent or your mortgage, you're not going to be a successful agent. You're going to be too worried about yourself. You're going to stink of commission breath when you try to get a deal done. A successful real estate agent knows he's not going to sell 100% of his listings. Things are going to go wrong. Sellers are going to change their mind. Buyers are going to back out. Clients are going to be unreasonable. Look, I would like all my listings and all my clients to be successful with me, but I know not everybody's going to be successful. Fortunately for me, the amount of unsuccessful transactions I've had is very small, minuscule, compared to my overwhelming track record of success. So I am not too concerned about any one particular deal. And when you apply your skills and earn the right to list multiple properties or represent multiple buyers, and then you get an unreasonable client, you're not afraid to fire the client, because sometimes the client is just wrong or crazy or unreasonable. And if I don't have to worry about him or her, goodbye. I don't need a negative influence in my life. There's enough other people that will truly value the service that I deliver and will be grateful instead of being adversarial. So, the negative people, we all encounter them in our lives. You don't have to deal with them because you're not worried about it. So have the funds necessary to start this business properly. Take the appropriate training and education and practice your skills on a regular basis and network. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone and make a call. Somebody said, well, what do I say? How about you start off with hello? It's been a while since we spoke. I just want to let you know I started a new career, and I'm a real estate agent now. Who do you know that needs to buy a home, sell a home, and invest in real estate? It's as simple as that to get started. Because if, you shouldn't be afraid to call your sphere of influence, because if they're unhappy to hear from you and not willing to help you, are they really within your sphere of influence? Probably not. And aren't you better off knowing that than not knowing it? Pretty much it.
Great advice. Great advice. So Charles, tell us, we didn't mention where you're working. So we will put your contact information, but tell us a little bit about where you are.
I'm at Keller Williams Realty Empire. The office is physically located in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. I am, just so you know, the founding member for the Keller Williams office in Brooklyn, currently the only one. We are about to open up another location sometime soon. And, I'm grateful for the opportunity I had to open up a Keller Williams office, because Keller Williams changed my life. I wouldn't sell real estate with any other firm. The training, the education, the support that they give you is second to none. And it's about culture and a community that I want to be a part of. So I have the backing and the support to be successful in the training, the education, every resource I ever possibly needed, I have. So I spend my time between going to the office or working from my home office. You know, I feel like I'm perfectly situated to cover all of the borough. You know, if I'm in Bay Ridge, well, it's great. I could just get around the Bell Parkway to, you know, the southern end of Brooklyn, or I get on the BQE to the northern end of Brooklyn, and I could be anywhere that I want, especially now that I've given up the car and have gone green and ride an electric Vespa-style scooter. I could be anywhere from point A to point B. From the two furthest points, I could be there within 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and not have to worry about parking. So if you need me, I'll be there for you within 20 to 30 minutes, no matter where you are in Brooklyn, from any point that I'm currently at.
Very cool. Charles Olson, I can't thank you enough for sharing your insight with us today. Thank you for everybody who tuned into the Power of Connection. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.